All right, welcome back to Denoised. We got a couple breakdowns today.
Let's do it. Let's get right into it.
Let's cover Quibi's back.
Quibi's back, yes.
You can kill the man, but you can't kill the dream.
Jeffrey's been always ahead of his time.
Yeah, and I'll break down a little bit of some cool AI VFX demos that we've been seeing, and some covering again where it's just stuff shifting again in studio production.
In physical production world.
Yeah. In the US. All right, so let's talk about the rebirth of Quibi. It's not Quibi. We're saying Quibi. It's not actually Quibi. It is the idea of Quibi.
Yeah, I mean, we have a few vertical platforms that are already taken off and doing really well.
A month or two ago.
Right. So now it seems like there is like a Hollywood level executive jumping into the game.
Yeah. A team of executives headed by Lloyd Braun with a new company that they're calling MicroCo. And sort of the headline with this is they're basically doing the same exact model as Real Shorts or those other Chinese companies that have been doing these microdrama soap opera, vertical soap operas where they just shoot vertical. They're not shooting to like repurpose the content.
Right.
And you find them on TikTok or Instagram with like the little teaser that gets you sucked into the story. And then you pay up to finish the rest of the story.
Pay up.
And they're usually the craziest soap opera-y titles imaginable.
Yeah.
I would say targeted towards women. That seems to be the majority of the audience for these platforms.
Yeah. How much I guess they're just starting out. How much is it typically for Real Shorts?
I want to say, I think when we did that episode, it was around $40 to watch a whole...
Unlimited?
No, I think it was like $40 to watch a whole, whatever you call it, movie, a complete series.
Dude, that's pricey.
It is pricey, yeah. I mean, they weren't cheap, but they get you sucked into it. But maybe I'm missing the price. Maybe it was like $40 a month for unlimited, or I think it was like a token system where you buy the credits and you use them to watch to unlock the other episodes. But each, quote, series or movie, they're like, I think a movie length by the end of it, just chopped up into like,
oh, I see. So like
segments.
Like a 90-minute feature would be 90 episodes or whatever.
I think they're longer. I think they're like 10 minutes. So like it would be like 9 episodes or 10 episodes of 7 to 9 minutes in length.
Okay.
Anyways, MicroCo, US born, going after this model, similar to the Quibi model, but the sort of headline with this is they're using AI to cut production costs down to make this profitable.
That's
interesting. And so the quote from the New York Times piece, by its own admission, Quibi failed in part because it spent too much on content, about $100,000 to $125,000 per minute, with episodes as long as 10 minutes. So MicroCo, they're using another company they acquired called Intelligent Animation, and they developed an AI-assisted process, and they're dropping the cost down to as little as $1,500 per minute.
Wow.
So that's a big jump.
Cheap.
I'm trying to see if this is just, I guess animation's a separate part.
It's also super speculative that that's their cost because nothing's been produced yet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming they have test runs and
it's
stuff.
It's like when Elon said the Cybertruck was going to be $40,000 or whatever, and it ended up being $90,000.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of this. I mean, so they are expanding to other genres, including animation. So I mean, you can't really compare apples to apples with that if you're saying you're going from $100,000 live action production to $1,500 animation minute. Animation is definitely the more prime candidate to cut costs.
Yeah, for AI, I think animation is the gateway.
Right, that is the first one where you could speed up things there. Yeah, by comparison, the Chinese companies are spending as little as $15,000 for an entire season.
That's still cheaper than these guys' price.
Yeah, $15,000 for an entire season. Episodes are a minute to 3 in length. Seasons stretch from 30 to 150 episodes.
I went to one of those
buildings.
Version. I went to one of those buildings where they do that in China.
Oh,
yeah, it's like a full factory. Like there is thousands of people in a campus.
I bet. I mean, you're just cranking stuff out. Yeah. It's like I feel like it's going full circle to the Hollywood system 100 years ago, where you're just like, it's a studio and you just show up for the day and you're just like cranking out whatever content is for the day.
Yeah. We don't have quite the manufacturing efficiency that China has, and that goes across the board. So this new venture, MicroCo, is headed by Lloyd Braun, Jane Winograde, Chris McGurk, and Susan Rovner. Now, these are very elite level Hollywood execs. If you go through sort of their resume, they go for anywhere from NBC to WME to Yahoo Media Group, which I was part of for a brief moment, as well as ABC Entertainment. So in a normal world, without the shrinkage that the film industry suffered over the last couple of years, this team would be building an independent film studio, right? Like there would be no need to shift gears and try something new. But in today's climate, with AI, with a different type of content economy going on, they're going all in on vertical shorts.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's what has been working with these other Chinese companies.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like I got suckered into some of the headlines around this too, because it was comparing apples to apples, or it was made it sound like apples to apples of like, oh, Quibi was paying $150,000 per content minute and they're doing it for $1,500. But digging into this article, that's not the case. Quibi did live action for $150,000. They can do animation for $1,500 a minute, compared to $15,000 to $60,000 per traditional animation minute.
Yeah.
Huge cut of cost. But
Absolutely.
I'm also curious, I mean, how are they going to bring AI into the live action stuff and cut costs there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I don't know if it'll be like, fully generated stuff.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I would think scene extensions, wide shots.
Yeah.
Tell me if I'm wrong. This feels prime for if they invested in something like their own virtual production setup in a studio. So like you're not renting a studio, but you're doing virtual production. You're doing 2D, 2.5D. You're not building elaborate environments.
Yeah.
And then you could just crank through the hospital scene, the outdoor scene. If you have your whole grid rigged up with image-based lighting. And
when I was in China,
crank through it.
I went to a studio that does exactly this. I was there for the virtual production piece, but then I got a tour. And every floor had like a sound space, like it was like the hospital, it was like the courtroom,
like a permanently built out set.
Yeah,
kinda.
So it's kind of similar to what LA Center Studios has here in LA. So if you go in there, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's from RoboCop, that's from Law and Order, that's from.
Oh, they have permanent standing sets.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I knew it was just sound stages,
every floor is different. It's like a 15-story building.
Or probably what who's the YouTuber guy? We covered his studio that he's building.
Darman.
Yeah, probably what he's building out in LA too, where he's building out a big studio system with, I think, semi-permanent sets.
Yeah, VP makes perfect sense, but I'm guessing at this price point, they're looking past any sort of high-tech stuff, except for AI.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but if they built it out themselves, would it make more sense to have their own stage, or they could just keep everything on location, like at their studio, versus, oh, hey, we need to go on ShareGrid or on PeerSpace and rent out a house, or rent out this to do a quick location shoot? Because I've seen a lot of behind the scenes posts of people here doing vertical dramas, and they usually like go to an established location because obviously it's a lot cheaper than doing a set build, but you're still like, well, we got to go to the location, we got to like have the crew there. If you could just build a empty warehouse space with a couple LED walls and semi-permanent studios, and everyone's there, all the stuff's there, how much more efficient would you be?
They need to hire Joey for this. This is you're like
and then
making
you can
a lot of sense
generate
right now.
The background, scene extensions. Yeah, I'm curious how they're going to
generate all the plates with AI, right?
Yeah, I mean, also
up on the wall.
If you're going vertical too, you don't have to worry about having
you know what
the wide shots. You just need to have tall shots.
They need a View 1 system.
Yes,
Dude,
they need
that
the View.
Is perfect for these guys.
They need the View Studio. That's coming out with some new features.
Yes,
which I have a new video dropping about that this week.
All right, there you go. I mean, it's just I'm not plugging View. I do love View, but I'm not plugging them. But it's this makes total sense. I did not know this video is coming out this week, but it is coming out this week. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, no, but that's also what's been in my mind, because it's like they built this whole system now with integrated lighting, and it's just like, if you just have a tablet, and you have your background, you have your whole lighting grid rigged up.
Awesome. Oh, and the other thing I was going to say, this is not an apples to apples comparison with Quibi. If you remember in the late 2019, when Jeffrey was on stage with like literally every A-level talent, they all sort of supported the launch of Quibi. A big portion of the Quibi expense was the A-level talent. Like the fact that Brad Pitt and like, all these Sandra Bullock and all these people were on the shorts demanded that price tag.
Because they brought the names too. Yeah, I mean, I feel like they were trying to adapt the early kind of Netflix playbook to get into original content, but for short form vertical, and that was just a different beast, a different thing.
It's funny you say that. So Jeffrey Katzenberg, who did Quibi, also founded DreamWorks and comes from Disney. He did The Lion King, Aladdin, all those Disney hits from the 90s. He more or less invented putting celebrities in animated films.
Oh, like to have that voice to put them on
and
the poster.
just that headline, right? Yeah. Like when Robin Williams was Aladdin, like that was his creation, right? And even though you don't really see the likeness of Robin Williams, his voice and the fact that he's in the movie made that a much bigger movie. And that was sort of the same DNA that Quibi had. You know, that's like the big name and the big sticker will carry that content into another realm.
That was the idea.
Then the pandemic, it was what really put the nail in the coffin.
I mean, I know that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the costs were just too high for trying to make something that when you look at TikTok and it's like, okay, you can pay $0 for your content costs and they do way better. It's just a different medium.
Okay.
You know, I think
I have a soft spot for Jeffrey.
I mean, I'm glad they were able to do something crazy, but I just don't think it was the right medium.
It's nice to see it reimagined in today's world.
The other thing I've been thinking of with these vertical shorts is, I mean, look, we've called them soap operas, and they're like the craziest titles, like, you know, I fell in love with like my werewolf box, or here, titles of these are from the Chinese app Real Short, selling my virginity to the mafia king, and pregnant by my ex's professor dad. Are just two of the titles from the Chinese
company. Those are very much AI generated titles. Hey, ChatGPT, give me the wildest.
People love to give crap for AI slop, but it's like, you can find slop anywhere you look, or whatever you want to call it. How can this expand to other genres? Like, why does it always have to be the soap opera genre? Besides, they're pretty cheap and easy to produce, and they, you know, suck you in.
Telenovelas are the same thing.
Telenovelas. Yeah. Can this work with... So Cineverse is one of the companies involved in this project too, and they produced Terrifier 3, which...
that was great. Dude, that is classic.
So they have a whole slate of other actual movies and stuff and IP that they've produced. Yeah. So it's like, could this work with horror? Could this work with action? Like Robert Rodriguez is trying to kind of crowdfund a company to produce low budget action films. Yeah, I'm wondering, like, can you get other genres that work on this format too? Like, why does it have to be soap operas?
I think one of the genres that easily plugs in, so they're looking at stuff that's ultra low cost, right?
They want low cost, and they want to know that, like, look, this
ultra
works,
low cost with a high ROI, like a guaranteed return on investment. One of the reasons what we're seeing a lot of horror movies is because of exactly that. It's like relatively cheap. Like, you know, if you look at Hereditary and all
the Saw movies, cheap to produce, make a lot of money.
Under 10 million, it's going to make 100 million plus at the box. So I think horror could be another genre that easily fits into this. Now, provided how do you deliver that horror hit at a micro level, at an episodic level? I think that's the challenging bit.
Yeah, you need a good jump scare, you need some scares, and you need, you know, a cliffhanger ending to keep people being like, I got to watch the next one.
Because horror movies, as you know, like the way they're designed, there's a long investment, there's a payoff, payoff. Like it's quite the arc. And I don't know how you would re-engineer it essentially for micro formatting.
Yeah. But I'm just curious. It's like, can this work with other genres?
Yeah, I would say like get some like the Darmans of the world and the, you know, elite level YouTube creators in there, because they understand short form content better than anybody else, and get them to consult on other genres.
Yeah. Okay, next one.
Yeah, so I as you're on X all the time, I'm on LinkedIn just scrolling, doom scrolling, looking at AI stuff, and I'll say like 90% of it is AI slop. You know this, I know this. But every once in a while, I'm like, oh, this looks amazing. Who is this guy? And then so I connected with, looks like a digital effects supervisor at Digital Domain, Greg Teegarden. Shout out to Greg. And he's posting stuff that not a lot of people are looking at. Like this post with the Will Smith one at the Oscars. That only got like 9 likes on it.
Yeah, and this one is... He used Pavarotti's performance, singing opera, to drive an image of Will Smith.
Yeah, and the way he's doing it is he's using a local instance of ComfyUI, and we covered this on the Comfy episode. Like, it's so powerful what you could do with WAN 2.1 and Comfy. And he's using a couple of LoRa's and a couple of control net things, stuff like Fantasy Portrait and Multi-Talk. The Will Smith episode's only 873 frames, so it's not like super crazy to do.
Look, that actually is impressive though, because you know, if you do anything else with trying to drive a character performance on AI with like the public tools, a lot of them are going to have except for that new Pika update that came out that said it could be on any duration, but for the most part, you know, it's going to be 10 seconds, 15 second limit. This that he's running locally on his computer and doing 30-second continuous shot. Is impressive in itself. Yeah,
absolutely. And this is, for me, this is a big inspiration. And it's what I talked about a couple episodes ago. If you're an established VFX artist, you've done in this guy's instance, decades of VFX, you have the eye. Like, you know what looks good and you know how to fix it. You know how to address those things. you're just applying that eye into a new skill set, into AI tool sets. And that's exactly what Greg is doing. And the results are fantastic. Like from all the quote unquote filmmaker stuff I've seen versus his stuff is much closer to what feature film is. Although it's not quite there yet, but it's there,
Yeah,
almost
but for
up
like
there.
one guy running this on his computer
Yes.
with minimal resources, really good.
Yeah.
What was the Alien demo?
Yeah, so for those of you who've seen Alien Romulus, shout out to Fede Alvarez. I attended that panel with Fede at DGA last year, Directors Guild, and we saw behind the scenes of like, we built a practical alien. He was 7 foot tall, and they went back to the basics. Like they're like, we're not going to VFX everything, although they did end up VFXing a lot of it, and I think ILM did a lot of that. And for the scene, I don't want to ruin the movie for you guys, but there is.
Yeah, I still haven't seen it. It's on my list.
So this happens right after Alien 1. So Ian Holmes's cyborg character is in there. And there is a shot where he's basically dismantled by an alien. So his torso is just leaning up against the computer, and he's warning the team about the dangers ahead. So for that scene, they used a prosthetic Ian Holmes. And the way they built Ian Holmes is they took his, because he was in Lord of the Rings and he passed away, with permission from his family, they took his digital mold from Lord of the Rings and they cast it in silicon.
So Lord of the Rings had done a digital scan of him?
Right.
Okay.
Right. And so you would think that looks, because it's practical, it looks pretty good, but it was so into the uncanny valley. It was like the worst shot of the film, and Fede knew it. So when the director's cut came out, he replaced that practical shot with a VFX version of it. And so what Greg Teegan did is he took that and put it through AI. And I think out of the 3 versions, his version looks the best.
And he took the original shot from the movie or the VFX fixed shot and then tweaked that one? Do you know?
So I'm guessing here what exactly he did. So I'm guessing he took one shot from the film, he plussed it with AI as a single image.
Yeah.
So now you have Ian Holmes's reference image, and then he took the motion from the film to animate Ian Holmes, but Juan did the image to video.
Yeah, because I'm looking here, it says he took a single reference frame and video driver.
Yeah. So it definitely, it lost a lot of the uncanny valley characteristics. It does look more lifelike. And I mean,
you lose the ability, as of right now, to you have to have a static shot. So you lose the ability to move the camera around. But yeah, looks really good.
Looks really good. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out, that there are some excellent trial and errors and experimentations going on in the VFX community as we're all going through this revolution.
The other test I like to add up to was using Juan 2.2, which is the more recent model, which we talked about on the episode, to have more specific control over driving motion. So you see the dolphin one. So basically it just has like 3 white dots on a black frame, and he's using these dots to drive the motion of the image with these dolphins jumping out of the water. Yeah,
having temporal control specifically with subjects is such a hard thing, as you know. And so I think there's definitely a control net in there that's receiving those dots and then influencing the generation. But the fact that he's able to figure all this out on a local PC.
Yeah, but also bringing in control, because we've talked about that a bunch too. It's like just having more of that control in AI is like the missing gap for traditional VFX artists, and him messing around and being able to figure it out is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, somebody could look at this dolphin example and immediately dismiss it like, oh, that's not photoreal. The water looks like gel and da 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 da. It's gonna get there. We can as a matter of fact, you can already fix it now. You can then put this through another video generation model and apply a detail insertion model and all that stuff. You can already fix it now. But the fact that he's able to attach a control to it, very specific temporal control, I think that's money.
Oh, I did want to say something about WAN 2.2, because when we talked about it, I was like, I tried to run it on the computer and it took like 45 minutes to generate one video.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of improvements, people figuring out how to run it through some LoRa's and some other reconfigure the workflow to make it a lot more efficient. And yeah, so I did another test, a little bit lower resolution, but that was able to spit out some videos in like 2 minutes.
Oh,
so
nice.
With the 14 billion parameter model.
What was the secret?
Well, if you do the updated workflow that they have, the default workflow on Comfy, it now runs through, I don't remember the specific LoRa name and how that exactly works, but it runs through some new LoRa workflows that speed up the process I need to figure out more of the science.
How did you get the workflow?
They have it. They built out the workflow.
Juan released it.
ComfyUI.
Comfy released it.
If you go to their workflow template section and go load up Juan.
So 2 minutes for how long?
For about 5 seconds.
That's really
at
good.
a lower resolution. I don't remember. I think I might have done full HD in my first test, but even I cranked it up a little to 720p, and that was maybe 5 minutes.
It's good enough for like prototyping, and then you're like, I want this shot at 1080p. Then you go in and let it.
Or upscale, make it and then upscale it with like Topaz or something. I maybe crank it up higher if you're doing a shot that has like it's a wider shot and has a lot more details where it's like you don't want to lose the details in the video. So maybe crank it up for that. But for like a close up of a face or something, you can keep the resolution kind of low, spit it out quicker, and then up-res it after the fact.
For sure. We covered this a few episodes ago. There is Enhancor AI, which is a model that inserts skin detail and turns plastic skin into real skin.
Was that just for still photos?
Yeah, but maybe you can run that. So you generate a video and use that as motion reference, and then the enhancer image is now your new video generation, and then you do another video generation that has more detail. Does that make sense?
Say that again.
Okay. So let's say with this dolphin example, you have control over the dolphin. It comes out, but now you want a photoreal version of this. So you take it to Enhancor. Enhancor does a photoreal detail insertion, and then you use that as reference to generate another video with the motion influence from the first.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you kind of know you have the movement down that you want. You just crank up to do a higher resolution.
Yeah. So it's like a photoreal pass.
Yeah, with a higher resolution, but you just wait longer. But like this will be more like the final shot.
The dolphin skin is going to be accurate. Yeah. The water will have more, reflections and all that on it.
Yeah. Could be work. Yeah, could be a good trial workflow.
Yep.
All right, and then the last collection of stories, some shifts or some new updates ish in the ever-evolving world of physical production in the US.
I don't keep up anymore. It's gotten so out of control with so many different cities and countries just, vying for Hollywood production.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like every day that now there's like Malaysia and Indonesia and like all the far corners of
that too.
It's just like all over the world. I mean, here in the US, it's an absolute battle, right? Like for every state. And now obviously Texas, New Jersey, California, and Atlanta and Georgia. Those are the big four. But if you look under that, there's like a second tier list. There's Nevada.
Yeah, but I believe the Nevada one, because there was like that Warner Brothers studio that was going to get built there. Yes. Sort of pushed by Mark Wahlberg. But yeah, I don't think the tax incentives for the state ended up passing.
Okay.
Which the studio was kind of banking on. So I think that's on hold for now.
Yeah, but the one state that's been able to make a real dent is Texas.
Really? In the pickups.
Like with Matthew McConaughey. Remember, he went to the Texas Senate and stuff.
So other update from Texas. Taylor Sheridan from Yellowstone, big deal with Paramount Plus. Yep. They are going to be building a massive new film studio in Texas.
Taylor Sheridan, man, what a prolific filmmaker. I think he is one of the guys of our lifetime, especially in this current era. You have, like him, Christopher Nolan, Denis Villeneuve, and like there's like a handful of filmmakers that are just killing it. So I got turned on to him with Hell or High Water. This is almost like 10 years ago. It was with Chris Pine and Ben Foster and Jeff Bridges. I mean, it's like I love Westerns. It's like, how do you take the Western formula and pop it into the 2010s? And he did that really successfully. Amazing film. Obviously, he went on to have success with Yellowstone and then the prequels, 1923 and I think 1886 are the prequels. He also did Mayor of Kingstown with Jeremy Renner. That's on Paramount. I'm going to say Tulsa King with Stallone is also
That was that part of him too, yeah. But I mean, he's definitely most known for Yellowstone and all the spinoffs. And like Yellowstone is the biggest thing Paramount has.
Oh, yeah. And that's like $1 billion franchise.
Yeah. So like that alone makes him very valuable to Paramount.
I mean, I see Yellowstone toys in the toy section.
Landman was the other show.
Landman's
in the Yellowstone universe.
With Billy Bob.
Yeah.
No, this guy's killing it with TV shows.
Yeah. So they're building this new studio in Texas that is going to be part of the Alliance Texas campus, a 27,000 acre development owned by billionaire Ross
Perot. Did you say
Perot.
27,000 acres?
I think that's the entire campus. I don't know what else is on this
That's
campus.
like the land that Kevin Costner owns in Yellowstone. It's like that size.
But it is owned by billionaire Ross Perot Jr.
Oh, really?
Yeah, remember Ross Perot?
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those big Texas names like George Bush and Ross Perot, like it's they still run that state in a weird way.
Yeah, so this, I'm assuming, is his son. The film campus is composed of 2 buildings with 6 sound stages that can support 4 large-scale productions simultaneously.
Right.
It is expected to be the home base for such Sheridan-produced shows as Landman and Lioness.
Yeah.
Oh, Lioness was the other... I don't know if he was behind
Lioness
that.
with Zoe Saldana.
Yeah, more of like an action film.
that was
also on
good too.
Paramount. Yeah, so he's basically the Paramount. King of Paramount Plus content.
He's killing
they
it.
need it to work. And so, yeah, building a studio there in Texas.
Yeah.
Where he's based. Makes sense. And then the other article that came out too was sort of about Marvel. We've talked about a bit about Marvel kind of leave. Their home base for all their stuff was Atlanta and Trilith Studios for a while. But now they're switching to London. They're saying because of, I don't know if it's Spinewood specifically or a custom built studio in...
why are they leaving Georgia?
England.
That's a big blow for Georgia.
Labor costs. So,
really?
Like that London or England has similar tax incentives, but that the labor costs is less there than Atlanta.
I find that hard to believe.
That the labor costs and that the cost of shooting overseas versus like keeping it here, that is that drastically different.
I mean, both places are heavily incentivized.
I'm curious how this math works out.
Yeah, exactly. The one thing I could think of, and this is typical with any London versus America productions, is healthcare is free.
They don't have to pay for healthcare. Yeah, that's another one.
That's like a big one.
Yeah.
And I think some of the other sort of like Social Security, whatever benefits you have to roll into the wages.
Yeah. So on top of the wages you spend, the fringe benefits, I don't know if they even exist in England or if it just, I don't know, England is well, but yeah, in the US, it's like on top of the rate you pay people, you have to pay the fringe benefits of, the whatever retirement stuff and the healthcare stuff and all the other extra stuff on top of.
But even in the current like
salary.
US labor market, Atlanta is so much cheaper than LA, right? Like just cost of living and how much people expect to earn. So I would think that would be more of a 1-to-1 with London.
That's what you initially think of too. You know, I mean, my thought too was
I suspect there's something bigger at play here.
I don't know. I mean, my thought too with the framing of this article was like, because it was a Wall Street Journal article, Disney's Marvel abandons Georgia, taking livelihoods with it. I mean, look, in general too, like Marvel was cranking out stuff. You know, they painted a picture of just how like, you know, Trilla sound stages were packed and they couldn't fit stuff in because there's so many movies being produced, Marvel movies. But Marvel itself is just like, tone down the amount of stuff they're making in general too. Like, I mean, they only had 1 or 2 films this year. They're having like 2 films next year. They're not doing the four films and TV shows and everything. Yeah. They just sort of oversaturated with how much stuff they're making. So, you know, it's like, okay, maybe some of it did move to London, but they just weren't going to be making that as much anyways. But it also kind of it makes me think of, you see Mad Men? Remember like the Lucky Strike issue?
Refresh my memory.
Lucky Strike, like one of them, season 1 or 2, like one of the main story arcs, like Lucky Strike, the cigarette company was like their main client, was like 80% of their revenue. And, you know, then eventually they're like, we're going to switch agencies. And it's like, that's going to kill them. Because that is like their one and only client, like their main client that like funds everything. And so I always keep thinking of that with, you know, when you have your like one client funding a lot of your stuff, like you don't want to have the Lucky Strike problem. So, you know, Marvel was Atlanta and Trilla's Lucky Strike. And whether they pull out and move to London or just, you know, they're also making less stuff. You still need, you know, you want to think of other ways to do it.
You want to diversify your opportunities, your revenue, all that stuff.
Yeah. And Trilith themselves, you know, Frank Patterson, the head of Trilith, like is saying like this is cyclical and like, we'll have other productions and, you know, accommodate other stuff. And they have a good kind of incubator program too, where they're trying to like use it to like raise more local filmmakers and talent and stuff to develop shows and use the facilities. So I think they're smart and forward thinking with that way.
Yeah. So many people from LA moved to Atlanta like 10, 15 years ago to have a career there, right? So they definitely have the talent pool in Atlanta. And that's the other thing I was going to tell you about Texas is like, you can build 27,000 acre campus.
The talent and the infrastructure.
But how much flying in are you going to do? Like you can't fly a whole crew to LA for every production.
Trilith has a like mini city with like houses and schools and stuff for like the, you know, the above the line talent that they bring in for them to like, you know, comfortably live and be there for a few months. I mean, look, Georgia has kept up with the incentives and stuff, but it reminds me of just the last 20 years or so where, I remember when Florida had incentives and a lot more stuff was shooting in Miami, and the bulk of it was Burn Notice. It took, I think, the bulk of the tax incentives.
That was a good show.
It was, it was good. And it shot locally in Miami, and like it captured a lot of stuff in Miami.
Yeah.
And then New Orleans had tax incentives for a while, and a lot of the shops packed up in Florida, moved to New Orleans and set up shop there. A lot of the post houses and development labs and stuff when that was still relevant.
Yeah.
And then Atlanta picked up, and then everyone moved to Atlanta. So it's sort of like
New Orleans winds
this
down.
Is like they hop around, New Orleans. I don't know
that one show on
there.
Showtime with Bryan Cranston. I don't know if you guys saw it. It's called Your Honor.
Right. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, dude, such a slept on show. That was shot all over New Orleans.
That's right. That's true. Yeah. And the True Blood shoot in New Orleans? I mean, it was kind of based in
it does feel like
South.
it, doesn't it?
It feels like it. I don't know if they actually did shoot there.
Yeah. No, there's so many things that were shot. You're like, wait, why is everything in New Orleans
Why
now?
is there bayou everywhere?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, New Orleans has a lot of good character. But the state, they pushed the tax incentives, and then I think they stopped, and then it moved to Atlanta.
That is the nature of the film business, isn't it? Like, what's after London? Is it because I hear that now incentives went to Austria, and obviously Czech Republic has had it for a long time, and now Croatia is opening its doors. Mm-hmm. So
I would, I'm not an economics expert too, but I would also guess that London works now too because the dollar versus the pound is weaker than...
The dollar will be strong against the pound, so it's almost 1-to-1.
Right, before it was like the pound was like so much more expensive than the dollar.
The pound was like $2 was a pound.
Yeah, so there was like to convert and pay there would cost you way more US dollars.
Yes.
But now it's not such a big deal anymore.
Right.
For now.
Yeah. So London is cheaper for now.
If the markets and economy change with the dollar to pound conversion rates, then it might not be as appealing or as cost effective to hire UK labor.
I agree. And, somebody at Marvel that's, calculating all this stuff, they probably have a very complex algorithm to decide
people
yes
are
or no.
crunching these numbers and making multiple versions of budgets.
They're not stupid people.
No, their entire job is to crunch numbers and budgets and like factor in the tax incentives and what you get for this. And I mean, look, the goal, as annoying as it is, the goal is to keep making stuff at a budget, which is like the goal with, all of these crazy hop and skip tax incentives and things, and also AI and all of that stuff. It's just like with shrinking budgets, how can we still make these things possible?
Yeah. And the reality is the box office has shrunk, and we don't expect it to go back to 1990s levels. Mm-hmm. So now we have to work at a reduced capacity. It's just, how do you have the same level of quality and the same number of movies with a reduced budget?
Maybe let's end on a shinier note. What did you see about LA tax applications?
Oh, yes. So, recently California upped it to $750 billion. Mm-hmm. And I think there was some stuff that was passed to reduce the red tape in the city of LA for film production. It went up by 400%.
That's awesome. That's good.
I mean, it's such good news for us Angelinos. And Joey, you're now an Angelino.
Angelino. At heart for a while.
It's like we could feel it here that productions have sort of shifted away because growing up, you drive down any big street like 3rd Street in LA or Ventura Boulevard here in the Valley, and it's like, oh, there's a production there. You can see the trucks outside, you can see the crew, you can see the craft services line.
I know, I mean, I remember visiting, as a kid in a while, and it's just like, oh, production here, production there.
Everywhere.
I rarely see that.
See that now.
A few months ago, I did see one of the craziest car driving process caravans that I've ever seen, and I could not kind of piece together what was happening. It happened, it passed so quick, I couldn't get a shot of it. But it was like a very impressive, like multi-car process rig of like follow vans and like the car on the platform with like a couple other stuff.
The old school way.
The old school way, but like in a more elaborate fashion than I've ever seen built. And I don't know what they were shooting or what they were trying to do. Yeah. Maybe second to, if you've seen any of the behind the scenes, like the Spider-Man stuff that they're shooting.
Technocrane cars following?
No, it wasn't that elaborate because they were on regular streets. And so they had the police escort, but they were still just driving down normal streets.
Yeah.
But have you seen the Spider-Man? The stuff they're shooting in
the rig was being driven by a car
with the crane with the tank.
Yeah, and then the stuntman was. Yeah, I hope that wasn't actually the talent.
I don't know, but behind the scenes photo coming out of that have looked like
amazing,
an actual Spider-Man.
Yeah. Oh, also
rig.
on a happy LA note, did you see all the Once Upon a Time sequel stuff at Highland Park?
That they're shooting there. Yeah, I've seen some of those shots.
They did that entire main street has been converted into the 1960s.
That's cool.
Oh,
That's awesome.
there's like CRT TVs and stuff.
Yeah, actually, speaking back of actual. Well, wait. First off, though, I did want to. I think you said $750 billion. It's million. The tax instead of us, sadly, but I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, why would it be billion?
I was trying to fact check.
Yeah, we're not Saudi Arabia out here.
But speaking back to physical production, I remember when they shot School of Rock, House of Rock. What was the Tom Cruise? It was the Broadway play that they adapted into a musical with Tom Cruise.
It's not School of Rock. That's the Jack Black.
Rock of Ages. Rock of Ages.
I think so.
They shot it in Miami, and I remember they turned like a whole block area that was normally just like shuttered up and run down into like 1980s storefronts and stuff. And I was like driving through, and they hadn't like closed the streets off yet. And I was like driving, I was like, what? Wait, what is all this stuff?
It's time travel. It's literally time travel.
Where am I? And then I realized that they were shooting the movie there.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I hope you don't do with AI. But unfortunately, I think they're going to do with AI.
Some stuff, but I think we'll still have some other practical stuff.
Yeah.
Always. All right. It's about to wrap it up.
Yeah, good episode. Thank you to those of you who have commented on the latest episode on Nano Banana.
Yeah, thanks to everyone that found Nano Banana on Google.
Yes, if you're just new to the show.
We come with early updates because no one else was talking about Nano Banana until after the fact.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you heard about MicroCo here first.
Yes. Yeah, thanks for everything we talked about as usual at denoisepodcast.com. Yeah, thanks for watching.
See you on the next one.